facing elimination again, down 3-1 to the Heat. Boston, I'll remind you, has won 4 straight road elimination games. But tonight they'll be at home, which proved lately to be a disadvantage for them. So I want to show you 2 numbers. All right, here's the first one. The Celtics are an 8.5-point favorite tonight. Miami was a 13-point underdog in Game 5 just a few weeks ago against Milwaukee, and they won that game. So don't take this one for what it's worth. The number I really want you to see is this one. Teams in NBA history that have faced 3-0 deficits are 0-150, right, McNutt? Mm-hmm. Well, guess what Greeny says? Change the graphic. Woo! This thing is going to be 1-150. I'm on record, and I'm doubling down today. The Celtics are going to make history, and they're going to work their way all the way back into this thing, and they're going to win it. Vince Carter has all the insight you could ever imagine. He's faced a 3-0 deficit. Windy is covering the series, but I will start with you, Monica. Is it McNuts for me to say the Celtics are going to do something no NBA team has ever done before? They're going to win this series.
I think it's unlikely, but there's an absolute reason why we play the games. And I think that there's an opportunity there should this Celtics team really have figured something out. Honestly, Greeny, if this was almost any other team not named the Miami Heat who were in this same position last year versus the Celtics, I would give this thing a real chance because the Celtics are that talented. But to me, I just don't see Jimmy Butler allowing this team to be beat again at the same stage compared to what we saw last year. And even when you think back to last year's series, although the Celtics won, it wasn't just that Game 7 phenomenon where they sort of dwindled down the stretch. Mm-hmm. The Heat rallied a couple different times over the course of that series and made it really interesting down the stretch. I'm not sure that character trait has been completely erased, and we obviously know there's different leadership there for the Celtics this year.
Yeah, those who don't remember the way the series went last year, the Celtics had a 3-2 lead and a chance to close it out at home in Game 6, completely fell apart in the fourth quarter of that game, went back to Miami for Game 7, had a huge lead, gave away almost all of it. Jimmy Butler actually had a shot in the air that would have beaten them at the very end, and it didn't go. So history is not necessarily on my side, but I think talent is. So Vince Carter, let me come to you on that before I go to Windy because he has so much. But Vince, you've been down 3-0 in a series before, and while you didn't come all the way back to win that, you did force a Game 6 in that. Take us through the mentality of a team that is facing that kind of 3-0 hole and how it starts to claw its way back into a series.
Yeah, it was to a Boston team that was very, very good, but we were very good as well, and with the Orlando Magic, and feeling very good about ourselves because we had just swept our way through the Eastern Conference to get to this situation. We 4-0 against Atlanta, as well as 4-0 against the Charlotte, Bobcats at the time, and it was just an easy way. So we were like, okay, we're ready to go. And I think we got a little too cocky, and Boston hit us in the mouth, and it was tough to recover. But we did not want to get swept, and we wanted to make it a game. And like everyone has said, just give us a chance. Just win one. Just win one. And just win one. And we finally got a win or two and got to Boston and had a chance. And then all of a sudden, they took over and they got it done. So if you're the Miami Heat, the Miami Heat, you want to go ahead and take care of business right now. You're very capable. You had 15 turnovers. You shot 25% from 3. And their defense, Miami's defense has been great. You're going to have to defend. Boston figured out how to defend, and that's the little things, is turnovers, taking care of the ball. Boston only had 10 turnovers. Jason Tatum had 5 of those. That is concerning to me, but that was the thing. We just have to stick together, stick to the game plan, and not turn the ball over, and, of course, you got to make shots.
All right, now, Windy has been covering this series for us. And, Windy, in our meeting this morning, you used a term that would have made Jerry Seinfeld very proud to describe what this series has been and thus why it is so unpredictable.
Yeah, this is a bizarro conference finals. I've never quite seen a series like this. Whatever is up is down. Your favorites are your underdogs are your favorites. It's kind of laughable that the Miami Heat are listed as underdogs. They have won 8 times as an underdog this postseason, second most all time in recorded history. That underdog has been this successful against the spread. They have blown apart the models for ESPN's BPI. The computers basically run home to mama. It has no idea what's going to happen. And the strange thing about this is that the Celtics seem to play better when they're behind. It's something that I've witnessed over the last 2 postseasons. For a team that's this strong, it's unusual. And let me just articulate it this way. In the last 2 years, Greeny, they have 4 road elimination game victories. This is more than most Hall of Famers have in their career. LeBron James, the most decorated playoff performer in the history of the NBA in terms of number of series, number of games, points, finals, whatever. He has 4 in his whole career of those. They have 4 in the last 2 years. But they're 10 and 11 at home during that stretch. Do you know how hard it is to go 10 and 11 at home over a 2-year stretch in the playoffs? You have to be good enough to play in that many series, but how can you possibly win that many series when you can't win at home? And so that's why this doesn't make any sense. So if what you're looking for is for me to say that this could be historically a historic series and somebody could defeat that 150-point number, yeah, because nothing is making sense right now, but also nothing is making sense. So I'm going to show up and just try to figure out what's going on as it's happening.
All right, so I get it, and I like all of that. And actually, Wendy has sneaky big news that I'll get to in a second. But, Monica, here's the only thing I'm basing this on.
Tell me.
Is that in a series that has been this unpredictable, where nothing that we have seen so far has made sense, I'm going to go back to the one thing I think I know, which is without in any way meaning to disrespect the Heat. They've been magnificent. Jimmy Butler has been the best player, maybe in the entire playoffs, not named Nikola Jokic, and Eric Spoelstra may very well be the best coach in the sport. But the Celtics are the better team. There isn't any, all year long they've been the better team. For 2 years, basically since Christmas of 2 years ago, they've probably been the best team in the NBA. So it doesn't make any sense to me that they would play as badly as they did in the second halves of games 1 and 2, and then the entirety of game 3. Some semblance of normalcy has to be restored. And I felt like that began on whatever night it was, Tuesday, whatever night it was that they won game 4. Yep. I've lost track of days here. and that it is just going to come back to what it should be. If the Celtics play the way they should, then there is no reason in my mind why every single time they go out on the floor in this matchup, they shouldn't win.
I agree with you, Greeny, but in theory, Vegas, our BPI, everybody that watches basketball, no one would have predicted that they would have gotten into an 0-3 hole anyway. Right. And so I understand you, and this is why it is very, very unique. This series has been a ton of fun. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Could the 1 and 150, as you predicted, happen? Sure. But to me, the other thing that we know about this series is, to your point, Jimmy Butler is on an absolute mission. Yeah. And his ability to rally his team and have those guys playing in their exact role effectively when it matters. And of these two teams, to Wendy's point, which team is more comfortable in a nasty fourth quarter? And it appears to be, not just in this series, but over the course of the season even, the Miami Heat. And so I know everybody likes to say it's the NBA Finals and it's 4 games, not 1. Well, the Heat only need 1 more.
Right. But they had to get their way here. And, Wendy, we have something I would describe as sneaky big news here about the potential for one player that we might not see tonight. Tell us the very latest on Gabe Vincent.
Yeah, so Gabe Vincent pretty significantly sprained his left ankle late in game 4. He's being listed as questionable by the Heat after getting examined yesterday. Now, that is actually good news to me because that looked like a doubtful out situation, the way he turned it over. I'm sure the fact that it's the playoffs is playing a role there. He's been really good in this series. 29 points in game 3. He had 17 points in game 4 before he got hurt. Even if he's able to play and he's not himself, look for Jimmy Butler to get more time at point guard. The Heat are already down 2 guards this playoffs, Tyler Hero and Victor Oladipo. They're thin at guard. So if Gabe Vincent isn't himself, Jimmy Butler with the ball more, I'm not sure how that affects the Heat, but it would certainly put the onus more on Jimmy to be a playmaker.
And then let me come back to Vince for go ahead, Vince. I can see you want to jump in. Go.
Well, let's not forget you have Kyle Lowry sitting on your bench as well, an NBA champion, a guy who in the beginning of the year was your starter and very capable of orchestrating your offense. I don't know if he can put up the big numbers, but at the same time, he's a gamer. He's a big-time guy, and he understands the moment in situational basketball. And so I think Kyle Lowry will play a huge role in this, even if Gabe Vincent can't play and can't perform to that level as well.
All right, I think that's a really good point. You know what? Let me leave it there for the moment. We have much more basketball as we go. We got to get out to the LeBron latest and everything else that's happening coming out of the Western Conference Finals.